It is the winter of 1122. Inside the Hall of Extended Blessing, candlelight trembles across lacquered columns, and the air carries the cold perfume of burning cedar. Emperor Huizong, poet, painter, the most cultivated man in the known world, sits before a scroll he cannot finish. Beyond the palace walls, the city of Bianjing hums with rumors sharper than any brushstroke. Iron-shod horsemen gathering beyond the northern passes, smoke rising where smoke should not. The emperor summons Chen Wuling, keeper of the imperial kilns, a man whose hands carry the memory of 10,000 firings. The commission is simple in its words and impossible in its weight. Create something eternal, something that heaven itself would recognize as worthy. Chen bows, his forehead nearly touching cold stone, already understanding that this is not merely an artistic command. It is a desperate prayer shaped in the form of one. Among the dust-shrouded reserves, Chen Wuling's fingers find it, a Tang-era vase, cobalt and cracked, its hairline fracture tracing the vessel like a whispered secret. He lifts it toward the workshop lantern. Something shifts inside. Carefully, with the reverence of a man handling an emperor's breath, he eases a tightly wound scroll from the hollow belly of the clay. The ink is faded brown, the calligraphy impossibly fine. His lips move in silence. The formula describes glazes fired at temperatures Song kilns rarely dare. Colors called heaven's membrane, a luminous blue-green said to mirror the sky at the precise moment before dawn surrenders to daylight. Chen's hands tremble. Around him the kilns breathe their familiar heat. But nothing about this moment is familiar. He has found something that was meant to be lost, and now he must decide whether to wake it. 7 times, the kilns roar to life. 7 times, they disappoint. Chen Wuling lifts each ruined vessel from the cooling ash with the careful hands of a man cradling a broken promise. Glaze blooming black where it should burn sky blue, porcelain bodies split like cracked lips by unforgiving heat. The workshops fill with the sharp mineral smell of failed chemistry, of powdered feldspar and copper oxide ground together in ratios that refuse to cooperate. His apprentices say nothing, but their silence is loud. Outside the palace walls, rumors travel faster than horses. Jurchen war drums, border towns abandoned, smoke rising from the northern prefectures. Chen grinds his pigments finer, adjusts the flame, consults the ancient inscription once more. The formula exists. It worked before. Somewhere inside the mathematics of fire and mineral, the answer waits, and time is becoming the one ingredient he cannot manufacture. Dawn breaks pale and cold over the yellow river. Chen Wuling moves alone through the river mist, a master craftsman on his knees in the mud, an act of extraordinary humility for a man who commands 40 kilns. His fingers search the confluence where 2 tributaries marry, seeking the particular gray clay the ancient scroll demands, dense with mineral memory. Then he hears them. Figures emerge from the northern mist like ghosts themselves, hollow-eyed families carrying bundles of scorched silk, children silent with a silence no child should possess. These are the first refugees, driven south by Jurchen cavalry, whose horses' hooves have already bitten into Chinese earth. Chen watches them pass, his hands still dark with river clay. The vessel he imagines must now carry something heavier than beauty. Back in Bianjing, the kilns await, and so does a decision that will define everything. When the kiln door swings open that bitter December morning, the stench reaches Chen before the sight does. Something acrid, chemical, wrong. Where celestial blue should bloom across the cooling vessels, there is only ruin. Livid purples, mud-brown welts, colors that belong to rot and not to heaven. Chen lifts a shard with bare hands, turning it slowly in the pale winter light, filtering through the workshop's rice paper screens. He understands immediately. The feldspar ratios have been disturbed. Someone has reached into the sacred mixture and poisoned it with intention. His jaw tightens. His breathing steadies. Around him, apprentices study the floor. Chen sets the shard down with a gentleness that is more frightening than rage. He will file no complaint. He will speak no accusation. Instead, he turns back toward the grinding stones, because the glaze must be rebuilt, and the kilns will not wait for justice. In the smoky amber half-light of the preparation chamber, it is not the master who sees the truth. It is the girl. Miyagi, youngest of the workshop hands, her fingers perpetually stained the blue-black of ground cobalt, crouches over the ancient scroll with a lamp held close. She traces a passage the senior craftsman dismissed as ornamental flourish. A diagram of arrows, of breath moving through stone corridors at a precise, oblique angle. The airflow. Not the minerals. Not the ash-glaze ratios. The very breath of the kiln itself determines the color. Chen Wuling reads the passage again, and something long extinguished ignites behind his eyes. The formula was never incomplete. It was simply misread by those too certain of their own knowledge. Now, with the drums of the Jin armies faintly audible beyond the northern walls, Chen returns to the kiln mouth with entirely new hands. The kiln mouth is sealed with fireclay and horsehair ash, Chen Wuling's hands trembling against the heat already bleeding through the bricks. Outside, smoke rises, not from ceramics, but from the northern wards of Bianjing, where Jurchen torches are finding timber. Inside the workshop, apprentices freeze mid-motion, brushes suspended, breath held. The roar of the flames becomes the only sound in the world. 200 degrees. Then 400. The yellow river, indifferent and ancient, slides past the compound walls carrying ash from fires no craftsman lit. Chen kneels before the sealed kiln as though before an altar, feeding pine split billets methodically, precisely, the way the scroll demands. Creation and annihilation share the same hour, the same air, the same trembling light. What emerges from this fire, if anything emerges at all, will answer a question no living emperor has yet thought to ask. The kiln mouth opens before dawn, exhaling 3 days of held breath into the winter air. Chen Wuling reaches inside with bare hands, indifferent now to burning. What emerges stops time itself. The vessel glows in the pale gray morning, neither blue nor green, nor the color of deep river water, but something older than any name the Song court possesses. Across its surface, the legendary glaze has bloomed like ice, fracturing over a still pond, like the moment before rain becomes snow. Tiny constellations of iron-red pulse within the Celadon depths. Chen's hands are shaking. He has not slept. He has barely breathed. Around him, apprentices fall silent, then slowly to their knees. Outside the workshop walls, somewhere beyond the frozen yellow river, the drums of the Jin army are already sounding. The vessel is placed before the Son of Heaven on a table of lacquered rosewood. Emperor Huizong, painter, calligrapher, the most aesthetically gifted ruler China has ever known, leans forward in the flickering lamplight. His fingers do not touch it. He does not need to. The glaze catches the flame like the surface of still water beneath a winter moon, colors shifting between jade and smoke, and something that has no name in any living tongue. Outside the palace gates, the sound of distant drums carries southward on the cold wind. Somewhere, evacuation orders are being sealed with imperial wax. But here, in this suspended moment, an emperor simply weeps, not for his throne, not for his armies, but for the terrible, fragile beauty of what his civilization was. Chen Wuling watches in silence, knowing the kilns will never burn again. He moves south through January's cruelty, one man among 10,000 broken souls fleeing the dying capital. Snow fills the wheel ruts of abandoned supply carts. The smell of char and horse sweat hangs over every frozen road. Against his ribs, wrapped in oiled silk and pressed between layers of padded cotton, the vessel travels warm as a sleeping child. Behind him, Bianjing burns. The Jurchen riders take what the flames do not. An empire of lacquer and verse and celadon light collapses in a single season. Yet something endures, something fired at temperatures that outlast dynasties. Harder than grief, more patient than stone. Chen Wuling does not look back. The clay remembers everything the court has already forgotten. And in Linfran, a new court waits, hungry to learn what the ruins preserved.